what happens when an overpowered DM PC is just a side note in a story. Let me describe the situation. My first experience with dipping my toes into tabletop RPGs was brought about by an online friend of mine who knew I had been wanting to give it a go for a while. For context, this took place 6 months ago. When he came to me and told me that he was running a campaign as a DM, he also told me that it would be heavily story-based, but would also have influence from another game we both play. As it was my first ever tabletop game, I thought it was perfect for my first time. The other players were all men varying in age that had one curious thing in common. They all played as women who were, in some way or another, into other women. I do not mind people playing as the opposite gender and such, but it did give me cause to pause. In my naivety, I hoped it was merely a coincidence and not something else. I think you all know what it was. So we had Sorcerer, Jessica, Dark Knight, Hannah, Druid, Lucy, Warlord, Anne, Cleric, Aaron, and myself playing a 16-year-old bard. Unfortunately, that bit of information is important. The campaign right from the start was a disaster, so I won't bore you with those details. I will simply cover what bothered me the most out of this campaign, which predominantly took place in one dungeon. This particular disaster started when the party made their way to a dungeon, and outside of it, 3 NPCs were arguing. 3 cousins who I will name John, Delilah, and Bill. After a slight scuffle, things were smoothed over, and we were told that the leader of the NPCs was John, who was at least into dudes, who had just lost his lover within the dungeon. And so he enlisted our help in retrieving the body. Fair enough. We all go in and deal with some enemies. I make a perception check and roll a high number. High enough to find a secret chamber with 3 chests. Investigating traps, we found 2 were safe and 1 wasn't. Since I found it, I got to choose first, so I chose one and it contained some magic items that were not of any importance. The one on the left, however, I left for Jessica to open, and when she did, it was said to contain a magical stone, a number of pink potions, and a whip. Jessica stated that her character would wonder what it tasted like, and so the DM decided to have her roll a wisdom save not to drink it. Failing this, her character was forced to drink the potion, and she immediately became a succubus. This changed her entire character. Her charisma went from a 17 to a 25. She was able to drain others' levels through intercourse, whether they wanted it or not, use a mind control ability, and her alignment changed from good to evil. The most disturbing thing, however, was when the DM told us that she could no longer turn down invitations for procreation or any advances. advances. I was very uncomfortable with this. I did not sign up for some zero consent inappropriate nonsense, but Jessica's player told me that he was okay with it, so I chose to keep quiet and just go along with it, since I was a huge noob. The moment she changes, the NPC who let us in was said to be oogling over her. You know, the one who just lost his lover. The one we're currently retrieving the body of. That one. So we move further in and come to a point where we can hear voices up ahead, to what seems to be a large group of pirates. Not wanting to take on a large group, I immediately want to start brainstorming and look for other paths. Jessica, on the other hand, did not want to do this and went into the chamber ahead, and inside I think was 60 pirates and their captain. The DM describes the captain by saying, "No wait, he didn't. He just said, 'The captain stands up. and takes out his 2-foot-long snake from his trousers. At this point, I know more about the man's member than I do anything else. What follows is the worst inappropriate roleplay session I've ever seen. I don't even read or write those kinds of stories, but let me tell you, I could have done a better job. As this is happening, the leader of the trio of NPCs steps in, and we all follow, as we didn't want to leave him to fend for himself, and he immediately betrays all of us, offering us up as love slaves in exchange for the return of his lover's body. Thoroughly creeped out, I tell the DM I am uncomfortable with this, and he informed me he did not intend to make me or anyone else feel that way, and so we ended the session shortly after this. Once it is over, I tell him if this is going to be a regular occurrence, I'm leaving the group. This was possibly the third session at this point, and he said no, it won't. And so I asked at the very least, could he remove my character from the situation, as he is 16, and I was not comfortable with him being in such an inappropriate situation. And he agreed. But really, even if he was an adult character, I myself would not be comfortable with role-playing those kinds of situations. Next session comes around, and we are all in shackles from having been given to the pirates. My character was taken to a separate location from the rest of the players, and I was thankful the DM seemed to have listened to my complaint. Anyway, so then my character was put into an inappropriate cowboy outfit and made to perform for the first mate. While this was happening, the other players were once again doing their inappropriate role-playing in another part of the dungeon. This included Jessica forcibly snoo-snooing John to death in front of his cousin Delilah, while Bill was intercoursing with Anne for her first time. I had enough at this point and kind of just disengaged and was just going through the motions. I immediately got my character out of that icky situation and used disguise self to look like another pirate. Anne, after her procreation encounter, like me, decided to get out of there, and separately we both started to plan our escape. On my way around the dungeon, I learned that the first mate had been having an affair with the wife of his captain. I kind of perked up at this news as a plan formed in my tiny brain. I planned to split the pirate crew into two sides, one for the captain and one for the first mate, and have them fight one another and pick off whoever remained whilst hiding away. I was going to use the information I had learned as sort of a catalyst to start the fight. Along the way to finding the captain, however, Anne had encountered him first, and so they had a scuffle and Anne was losing. So I entered the scene, still disguised, and just as I start to put my plan into motion, the DM tells me I cannot do that or he will finish Anne on the next turn. He tells me my only option is to stab the captain because apparently the wife was a shared wife who apparently everyone slept with, even though it was not presented as such. The information was presented as some seedy secret amongst the crew. At this point, I was so disappointed because I had been wanting to play as the kind of character who does not really do that sort of thing. I wanted to use words and think things through so that he rarely has to raise his sword. But no, I was told I had to stab the captain or another player gets punished. So yeah, I stab him and just play on my phone, not really paying attention to anything else. Anne was also allowed to have the pirates take her side when we later fought the first mate. I don't know why she could, but I couldn't. Stuff happens and we steal their ship, and my character insists on taking the other slave girl NPCs with us to the next town to get them some help. We were level 5 at this stage, maybe, and we were told once we got them to town, we had to pay 300k gold for the girls to get proper care. No way we could afford that. So somehow Aaron bibbidi bobbidi boos each of the girls, and within 12 hours they no longer need help? I was really confused here, as well as amazed at the amount of disregard that the DM and players had for the severity of trauma surrounding being a love slave. They presented it as, ta-da, you had 1 hour therapy session, you're cured, off you go. Disgusted, we get tossed in front of another dungeon for the next session. Why did I stay? I don't know. Hannah, Anne, and Lucy were late, so we decided Aaron, Jessica, and I were just going to wait outside. I decided to go make a flower crown and just relax. Jessica joined me. Aaron, though, decides to go collect ingredients for potion brewing, and as she wanders off, she says, "You should use your mouth on him." If you remember earlier, I mentioned that Jessica was unable to turn down inappropriate advances. I did not think of this when Aaron made her little joke, and neither did Jessica until the DM butted in and told Jessica to roll a wisdom save. She succeeded and was able to resist it, but it didn't matter to me. I was creeped out and did not want to do it anymore. I hated how every session turned into some weird inappropriate event. The campaign ended shortly after that, when Hannah, who often never paid any attention, stopped showing up. Lucy dropped off the face of the planet, and I was so disgusted that I just didn't want to do it anymore. A lot more happened than just this. Lucy had intercourse with her panther. There was an overpowered DMPC. Hannah, who was never paying attention. Aaron, who was snarky, and probably more that I cannot think of right now. But I hope you all enjoyed the story. The main reason I would say as to why I didn't leave sooner would be because at first I thought maybe it was normal, and I was being prude, and it seemed like everyone else was having fun, except me. So stupidly I stayed. But now, I learned to have the sense that if I'm not having fun, then I should just leave. It was just so unfortunate that this was how I had to learn that lesson. Unfortunately, some lessons need to be learned the hard way. Just because the rest of the group seems to be having fun, it doesn't mean that you can't be having fun too. If the group is too disgusting for you, spend your free time doing something else. Don't waste your time, and don't give people chances when they go too far. Sure, they might dial stuff back, but there's no guarantee that they will stop forever. Also, it doesn't matter if you've been in a game for 1 session or 2 years. If the DM makes you uncomfortable and you express it, and they still ignore you, then you do not need to be at that table anymore. Period. What do you all think about this situation?